All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with another 49er video. As one of our favorites, Matt Barrows, has done an amazing job doing a little article on the rookie impressions from minicamp. So we'll do a little recap of his thoughts and share some of our own on Niners rookie minicamp. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And they do run out. So get there early, get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Also, we are brought to you by Mancini's. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Mancini's Sleep World. Their huge Memorial Day sale is live now through June the 9th, and you can save up to $1,200 on select adjustable mattresses. Plus, they're throwing in an extra 10% off if you're a Krug Show fan and you use the Krug Show promo, Krug10. It's all backed by their Rest Easy Promise, best price guarantee. That's right, they're going to match the lowest prices you can find. 365-night comfort guarantee. You get a full year to try it out, and free next day delivery. So if you've been thinking about upgrading your bed, now's the time. Just make sure you jump on it before June the 9th. Make sure you use our code KRUG10 at the checkout at any of Mancini's locations or online at sleepworld.com, and you will save an additional 10% just because you know us. KRUG10, K-R-U-E-G 10 at checkout at any Mancini's locations. Thanks to Mancini's for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show, and thanks for them having their logo up here in the top corner of the screen. All right, let's talk a little bit about Matt Barrows' article in The Athletic on the Niners rookie tryout camp or rookie minicamp. And I was there. It was Thursday. We were there for the media, for we talked to the rookies, we talked to the coordinators, and then Friday they hit the field. They also had a private workout Saturday. I think no media availability, at least I was told. So I was there Friday, and I saw everything that everybody else kind of was privy to seeing. But Matty had a great little breakdown on it, so we'll kind of go through his observations and give you some of our own. Now, I thought it was interesting. Matty's speculating that the Niners could have definitely gone offensive tackle in this draft a couple times, and they just didn't fall their way. According to Matt, he thinks the Saints could have gone Kelvin Banks the Niners could have gone Kelvin Banks at 11, but the Saints went Kelvin Banks at 9, the offensive tackle from Texas. And according to Matt, he thinks the Niners thought the Saints would be taking Mikael Williams at number 9. And then in that case, most likely, it sounds like Banks was going to be the Niners guy. In fact, John Lynch, when he went on with Chris Sims, said, if Mikael Williams wasn't there at 11, our pick would likely have been an offensive player. And so, we can speculate who that would have been. I think Matt's reporting is probably accurate. It probably would have been Kelvin Banks. So at the end of the day, if it came down to Kelvin Banks, and I remember the scouting report from Bob McGinn, who said that the anonymous scout said of Banks, he loses slowly, which is not the most inspiring scouting report of all time for a player. He loses consistently, but he loses slowly. In other words, he's a big-bodied guy. It takes you a long time to get around him, even if his technique's not all that great, I think is the point. But so there you go. If you're a 49er fan and you're sitting there going, well, it could have been this, could have been that. It didn't sound like the Niners were interested in Walter Nolan or Shamar Stewart or a lot of those other defensive players, Jalen Walker, who was there, and others. It sounds like it was a choice in their mind between Mikael Williams of Georgia, who they went with at 11, and Kelvin Banks of Texas, the offensive tackle, who went before them, number 9 to the Saints. So interesting stuff. And then Matt also says that, the Raiders there in the 3rd round, and we kind of knew this as it was happening. The Raiders had 2 picks right before the Niners in the 3rd round. They went with Caleb Rogers out of Texas Tech, one of the more mobile offensive linemen in the draft, and a guy that the Niners had shown a lot of interest in the lead up to the draft. They went with him, and then Charles Grant, who the Niners also had in for a 30 visit, the William and Mary offensive tackle with also 35-inch arms, some really, really long arms. The Raiders took these guys in back-to-back picks right in front of the Niners. So the Niners went Upton Stout there in the 3rd round with those 2 offensive linemen off the board. So that's, I think, what John's talking about, where he's saying, hey, we wanted to go offensive line. It just didn't fall to us. And I think that's kind of the explanation. A couple other notes. I saw Mikael Williams at the mini camp, and I thought he looked pretty good. But I didn't think he looked spectacular or anything crazy like, oh my God, you're seeing a once in a lifetime kind of a player. But according to Matt, Mikael Williams did make a strong positive impression on Chris Kasarik, and ultimately that's all that matters. Alfred Collins is we discovered is, according to Matt and others, is cousins with former 49er and longtime NFL offensive tackle Trent Brown. A lot of people feel like they're facially look very similar. If you look at the pictures of Trent Brown's face and Alfred Collins' face, and of course both are huge human beings, so it makes sense that they're from the same bloodlines and same related. So Alfred Collins and Trent Brown related through both being huge. I think Brown's actually has slightly longer arms, 36-inch arms, where Collins' arms are like 35 and change, but still just two of the longest armed guys in the history of the NFL happen to be related. And it was also kind of interesting. Matt reported that Collins models his game after Calais Campbell, the 18-year NFL veteran. And man, if he could have anything close to the career that Calais Campbell has had since leaving the University of Miami over the last almost 2 decades, the Niners would be very, very pleased if Alfred Collins became Calais Campbell. As I said, this will be his upcoming year will be his 18th in the NFL. But that's a good guy to compare himself to. Why? Because Calais Campbell was a gigantic player who's scheme versatile, who's a good pass rusher, and yet he could play the run really, really well. And he played upright. He exposed, he didn't play with tons of leverage, but he learned to play at that height and to be quick off the ball. And he had an incredible career because he's a phenomenal athlete at that size. And we'll find out if Collins is as well. But it was interesting to see that Collins models his game after Calais Campbell. Also, and by the way, Collins did not practice this weekend, and a lot of it they're saying is a left calf strain. And I hope it is a calf and not an Achilles. That would be a record to this year and to this draft class if that calf injury for Collins is more of an Achilles injury. I hope that's not the case. It's the same general area. Upton Stout. The other note that I thought was really interesting from Maddie is that he says that Upton Stout, who I thought looked, the word I would use when I described what I saw from Stout in the minicamp was explosive. He's an explosive mover. Yeah, he's 5'8.5", but he ain't small. He's like a little pound of muscle, and he's explosive. And Matt said that he just oozes confidence. And solidly built. Yeah, I mean, he is very solidly built. 21 reps at 225, tied with Tyler Booker. I didn't realize Booker only had 21 reps. But 21 reps is, I wouldn't say that's even all that deficient for Booker. I just think that's freaking amazing from Stout. I mean, you can put up 20 reps of 225, you're doing pretty good. Now, I realize there's guys who can put up 40 reps. And the Niner defensive lineman they signed as an undrafted player from Washington is definitely really, really strong. I think he led all the bench press this year with 34 reps. But 21 reps is not like an embarrassment for Booker, but it is a very impressive number for Upton Stout. And when we asked him about lifting, he's like, "Yeah, I don't lift with the DBs, man. I lift with the big boys. I lift with the linemen." So you gotta love a little guy who wants to lift with the big guys. And there's no doubt you don't put up 21 reps at 225 at 5'8", 180 pounds, unless you've spent a lot of time in the weight room. That's the one thing about the scouts that, they do look at the weight room numbers. But if you actually talk to the scouts and say, what do you see in the weight room numbers? Well, it's about strength, but ultimately weight room strength and functional strength are not the same. And you were really looking for functional strength on the film. And if he has both, great. But if you can have one over the other, you want functional strength over weight room strength. But the one thing about the weight room strength is that there's no faking it. If a guy can really lift a lot of weight, he's spending time in the weight room. Okay. And that's really what it sends. It sends an overarching message of whatever the exact number is, you're spending time in the weight room. And if if you want to be a pro football player, spending time in the weight room is kind of, I think that's probably safe to say that's one of the prerequisites. A couple other notes from Maddie's review of minicamp, and this was an excellent review. And I've said it before. I don't want to embarrass Maddie, but he's not here, so who cares? He's one of the best. He's one of the very, very best. I really do believe that. Not just covering the Niners, covering sports, and he's just really good. He's diligent. He's on it. He's hustling. But at the same time, he's in it for the right reasons, and he's a really good reporter, just really solid. Anyway, he had more notes in his minicamp review, and he said the most visibly striking receiver at minicamp was Isaiah Neyor, the wide receiver from Nebraska. And Matty phrased it perfectly. He said he looks like a Randy Moss, and it's like, yeah, that's what Isaiah. If you say trying to describe somebody what he looks like, Isaiah Neyor looks like Randy Moss. That's what he looks like. He's super narrow, but he's super long. I mean, the legs are long. The arms are ridiculously long. The strides are long. But then if you look at him, across, he's not wide. He's narrow. He's very narrowly built. So, yeah, Isaiah Neyor, not only was he the most visibly striking receiver at camp, he also made the highlight play of the day with it was a go pattern down the right sideline. And here is a 6'4", 220-pound receiver in full flight, arm extended, 35-inch arms, dead run, 4.4 flat speed down the sideline, tipped it to himself and brought it in down the sideline for a great catch. I mean, it was a beautiful catch. Now, was it lucky and the guy's got horrible hands? Time will tell. He wasn't the most productive player between Wyoming, Texas, and Nebraska, but there was injuries there. He never really played at Texas. He was good at Wyoming and then finished up with a pretty good year at Nebraska. So Raiola loved this kid, the quarterback in Nebraska. He loved Neyor. You could see it. I mean, he made big plays for Raiola in Nebraska. Big kid, crazy workout. I'll say this, man. If you're going to take a flyer on an undrafted receiver, you want that undrafted receiver to have all these traits. 6'4", 220, 35-inch arms, 4.4 flat speed, 40-inch vertical. And then what I saw at the workout was a guy who's got ability. Guy can catch. I mean, he's not just like some guy running around who's gangly and can't figure it out. No. So he's gonna be a factor. Now, to me, there were two receivers, and Matt also brings up Tariq Owens. Tariq Owens at one point made a leaping catch. Now, Tariq Owens should look in this camp like a world beater. Why? Because he was an undrafted free agent last year. So he's already had, it's like taking a class a second time. It's like you should be ready to roll and be like one of the best students in the class because you took this class last year. You're in there with a group of guys that are all taking this class for the first time, and you already took it. He was an undrafted free agent. He's been in the Niners system. He's been in the Niner organization for a year. But he made a leaping catch. And you think about this kid, undrafted free agent, spent all of 2024 on the practice squad. But he's got the genes of one of the most athletic receivers the sport has ever known. Terrell Owens is one of the greatest athletes in NFL history. I mean, he he recovered and came back and played in the Super Bowl, hurt, and the guy still looks like he could play. He's like one of the greatest physical athletes I've ever seen. Strength and speed and explosiveness. And his son has those genes. His son, though, didn't even play high school football, didn't even go out until he was a sophomore, didn't really play until he was a senior. So kind of his college career was more like most kids' high school career. So he's just raw and he's learning the game, but he's got a lot of Terrell's ability. Now, Terrell was 6'4", 220 and probably had 4.4 speed. His son's not. I don't know. His son's not 6'4". His son's 6'1", 220. but still very physical and still, really, really athletic. So, because he's got some of Dad's genes in there for sure. He is super athletic, despite the fact he's raw, but he's put himself on the radar. And I would say those are two guys you want to talk about. Actually, there's three guys here, three receivers to watch. And Matty kind of highlights them because he also highlights Junior Bergen, who we'll talk about in a second. But I mean, if you're going to camp this summer, the Niners have 5 new receivers. Because you also have to, don't forget DeMarcus Robinson. Don't forget Jordan Watkins, who's a 4th-round pick at Ole Miss, who runs 4.37 and looked good, I thought, in this mini camp as well. Niners really, though, have 5 receivers that 5 new receivers. Those 2 guys I just mentioned, and Isaiah Neyor, Tariq Owens, Junior Bergen. And I don't even necessarily think of Tariq as new, but I mean, they basically, and you could throw Isaiah Hodgins in there too, who's also got pretty good ball skills. They got some new receivers, and it's going to be a pretty good battle this summer. And Neyor is super intriguing because he's so big, so fast, so long arms, such a good jumper. I mean, he is a crazy athlete. So can that athleticism translate to production? It didn't really happen at the college level, but he's got all the tools. So, and I just watched it last week. So it's like that kid looked good. I mean, he looked good. And then you got Tariq Owens, who, has got his dad's genes, and he looks good. He's athletic. So you got him. None of these guys are getting. We're talking about guys competing for maybe 1 or 2 roster spots. Your receivers are pretty much set. You got Brandon Ayuk, you got Ricky Pearsall, you got Jawan Jennings, you got DeMarcus Robinson, you just drafted Jordan Watkins. That's 5. Most of the time, you only go with 5 or 6 receivers. So all these guys, Tariq Owens, Isaiah Neyor, Isaiah Hodgins, Junior Bergen, they're all going for probably 1 spot. And then it's going to be practice squad, unless there's injuries. But I'm telling you, Neyor is exciting. Tariq Owens' improvement is exciting. And then let's get to Junior Bergen, because Junior Bergen really opened my eyes at this mini camp from just how well he seems to move. This guy was an incredibly productive punt returner at Montana. 8 punt return touchdowns. 8? That's a lot. The guy averaged 17 yards per punt return. Brant Boyer, the special teams coach, loves this guy. Now, Boyer, the Niners feel like they got an inside skinny on Bergen that other teams didn't have. Boyer's son was Montana's place kicker. And the Niners also have another guy who was really tight to that program in their organization. So they knew all about Montana. They knew all about Junior Bergen, and they had the inside dope on Bergen. But Bergen shows up and says, I want to be a Hall of Famer. It's been my goal since I was a kid. Now, I'll say this. I don't know if he's going to be a success. I don't know if he's going to be a failure. But I'll say this. I love the guy who shows up saying, I want to be a Hall of Famer. Because if your goals, if you're shooting that high, the odds are you're going to make the team. Odds are you're going to make a contribution. Odds are you're going to be pretty good if the goal is to be a Hall of Famer, unless you're delusional. So we'll see. Either Junior Bergen's delusional, and he's nowhere close to being a Hall of Famer, or he's got legit talent and he's driven to be a Hall of Famer, and he's going to make an impact as a rookie because his standards are so high for himself. But as I just outlined, between Isaiah Hodgins, Isaiah Neyor, Tariq Owens, Junior Bergen, I mean, you've got DeMarcus Robinson, you've got some guys there who are battling for just a few spots. It's going to be very challenging at wide receiver. But very interesting notes on Neyor, Owens, and Bergen coming out of minicamp, and I thought that was interesting. When a guy says he wants to be a Hall of Famer, that always makes me kind of go, Couple last notes I thought were interesting. The Niners brought in Kenny Almendarez, the rookie from Louisiana Lafayette, as a place kicker tryout. And I haven't heard if they're going to go with him or not, but it's interesting. His body is just, the guy's like 255. He's big-bodied kicker. He made 27 of 29 field goals, and he made 46 of 47 PATs at Louisiana. And he won the Lou Groza Award, awarded to the best kicker in the nation this year. So let's see it, man. I mean, if this is the competition, then it's on. Kenny Almendarez against Jake Moody. I want to see a real competition. Now, the fact that he's the Lou Groza Award winner and, he's got good numbers tells me, hey, they got one of the better kickers, at least rookie-wise. I would have loved to have seen a Nick Folk or a veteran go up against Jake Moody, and maybe we still will. But Kenny Almendarez was standing there on the sideline, 250-pound kicker. Very unique. We'll see what it looks like this summer. And the Niners also brought in a veteran punter. I don't know if he's going to compete with Mitch Wishnowsky this summer or not, but Jack Browning came in for a tryout. He was a rookie last year with Buffalo and Baltimore, and then eventually landed in Tampa. And he played like the last month of the year, and he averaged 42.5 yards per punt return, or per punt, I should say, with the Buccaneers in the final month of the season or so. So, hey, we'll see. I think Wishnowski's probably pretty secure in his job, but competition is always a good thing. And one other note outside of the Barrows article, I thought this was kind of interesting. PFF came out and they went through every team's undrafted group of players and said who they thought was their favorite or who they thought the best undrafted free agent was for every team. And from the Niners, they went with Jacob Robinson, the BYU corner. That's interesting to me. Ben Cooper from PFF wrote, the 49ers are set to field one of the shakiest cornerback groups on paper in the NFL. So perhaps the team has high hopes for Robinson, their lone UDFA signing at cornerback. He earned a 65.0 plus PFF coverage grade in all but one of his 4 seasons at BYU. Didn't allow a passer rating above 100 in coverage in any of those campaigns. In their bowl game win over Colorado, he limited LeJontay Wester and Jimmy Horn to 2 catches for 3 yards. And Arizona's Teteroa McMillan, who was the 8th pick in the draft, didn't even have a catch when he was matched up with Robinson in Week 7 when BYU and Arizona played. Robinson shut down McMillan. So maybe I need to go watch a little bit. Maybe I'll do my next breakdown on Jacob Robinson. During the rookie minicamp, I guess last week, Robinson lined up at left cornerback during 7-on-7 drills. He looks a lot like Demo. He needs to get stronger. He's only weighing about 180 pounds. That's probably a little too light. He probably needs to put on 15 pounds of muscle, and we'll see if he can do it. The Niners like their corners to play heavy and run support and set the edge on the perimeter in the outside zone. So playing corner for the Niners is a physical position. So we'll see if he's got the frame to stand up. But that's an intriguing guy. He ran 4.36 for the stopwatch. That's an interesting player right there. So anyway, just a quick mention, Jacob Robinson, according to PFF, the best undrafted 49er free agent. All right, that does it for us. Thanks to Mancini's for sponsoring this video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. And thanks to all of you for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.